search and exploration of the liquid gold called oil has gone through a tremendous development in the last few years. In particular, offshore drilling activities form an important part of the search for oil all over the world. Not surprisingly, when one realizes that 4/5 of the Earth is covered with water. Offshore oil rigs are operating everywhere, and you will find them on locations like the Gulf of Mexico, the Arabian Gulf, and the North Sea, but also in the tropical heat at the equator on the west coast of Africa. Hundreds of these offshore oil rigs are under construction because of the great demand. One of these rigs presently being built in Singapore is the Trident 7A, constructed for account of 4X Neptune by the Robin shipyard. When the Trident 7A is finished, it is the right time to introduce one of Mammut Shipping's semi-submersible pontoons, towed by the ocean-going tug Happy Hunter.
So Happy Hunter, proceeding to submerging position.
A remarkable pontoon, 103 meters long and 30 meters wide, prepared for the shipment of the Trident 7A. The ballast tanks of the pontoon are floated. The deck disappears below the waterline. Then the rig is maneuvered on top of the submerged pontoon. After that, the tanks are deballasted again, and the result shows the rig on top of the pontoon deck. Basically a simple and reliable system. In reality, of course, this procedure takes quite some time and requires the know-how and capabilities of experienced people. Four local harbor tugs bring the rig of 7,500 tons into the right position above the pontoon and keep it there during the deballasting. Obtaining this position is quite a critical job in regard to the stability of the pontoon during the towage later on. Poles welded on the pontoon and a mark on the front of the rig enlighten this step of the operation. Deballasting went on till next morning. Securing and lashing of the load started at daybreak, an accurate job to be executed very carefully for optimal safety. Why use a pontoon for a floating object like the Trident 7A? To save valuable time. The conventional way to move rigs was simply putting a tug in front, a so-called wet tow. For short distances, this is a suitable method, but for a long voyage, rather time-consuming. A dry tow implies that by using a fast-sailing pontoon with a special bow shape, the time factor can be reduced drastically. Moreover, the insurance premium is lower. The maiden trip of the Trident 7A led to Cameroon, a voyage of over 8,000 miles, and it took only 40 days to reach the destination. An average speed of 8.72 knots was obtained. The end of the journey for the time being is Douala, the main port of Cameroon. For a proper float-off operation, it is important to find a suitable location where the pontoon can be submerged. Some of the points to be taken into consideration are water depth, current, and weather conditions. Of course, this investigation is carried out long before the arrival of the tow to ensure fast operation. Immediately after arrival, the pontoon is safely anchored, and the next thing is to remove the sea fastenings. When the cutting is done, the sea fastenings are transferred to the tug, and all systems are ready to go. The Mammoth on the side of the pontoon gets wet feet, but it is the only way to get the Trident 7A off her back. The same procedure as followed in Singapore is now carried out, but in the reverse order. As soon as the Trident 7A is afloat, the tugs start towing the rig off the pontoon. The remaining 60 miles, which are left from the submerging spot to the drilling location, are for account of the Point Dover and the Red Hawk. Meanwhile, the crew of the Trident 7A is preparing the rig. It must be ready on arrival. People are flown by helicopter from and to Douala, the fastest connection with the supply base over there. Slowly, the tow approaches the drilling location, the estuary of the river Rio del Rey, near the border of Nigeria, in the northern part of Cameroon. This particular part of the Gulf of Guinea is rather shallow and has a very weak subsoil. Buoy markings show the drilling sites and where to drop the anchors.
Point over, approach, find out position. Over.
Trident 7A, point over, roger.
The four legs of the rig, with a length of 250 feet each, will later on form the solid base of the drilling platform. In the control room, the movement of the legs is carefully monitored, and very slowly, with a speed of 1 foot per minute, the legs disappear into the sea. The tool pusher is in charge of this operation, and for his convenience, different types of control systems show him the result of the actions. Finally, the Trident 7A is safely jacked up in a perfect horizontal position. The legs penetrated the seabed 125 feet on this particular spot. The Trident 7A is now ready for the job for which it was designed, drilling. It is hard to believe that this solid construction crossed half the world, all the way from Singapore to Cameroon. But for Mammut Shipping, it was just one more of those heavy lift shipments which they perform worldwide with different types of ships for different kinds of jobs.